I still I don't know if 3-3 is even possible. You got if you don't beat Philadelphia tomorrow or
Yeah.
today, because this is technically Monday night, but we pretend it's Tuesday because that's when we post. Um, just throwing that out there. If you don't beat Philly, we saw how the Kings played against the Hawks on their other back to back earlier this year on the road. So, uh, and especially against Toronto, I don't know. I feel like Toronto is one of those cities we haven't won in a while. I don't quote me on that exactly, but I just
Let's look
feel
it up.
like I don't know. Can I just look it up that easily? You think? When's the
Yeah,
last time
I'll
the
look it
Kings?
up right now. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah, you look it up while I talk. But yeah, Toronto's just one of those places. They've had a good team for I don't know, 10 years now. Really, ever since Kyle Lowry came over. Maybe it took him a couple of years, but it's been a good team, good franchise, tough place to play. I don't know the Raptors. They're always just a solid team, and the Kings always. This is a different Kings team, but second night of a back to back against just a solid team on the road, that's always kind of a scary game. I have more faith beating the Sixers than I do the Raptors. I just feel like the Raptors just have our number. At least maybe
yeah.
James Harden. I feel like James Harden sometimes has bad games against the Kings. Um, Embiid, he's good. I think he dropped 56 the other night or something. So,
Well, I think the advantage against Phil. Well, first of all, before I interrupt you, I'll interrupt you with the pertinent information, which is in the last 10 against the Raptors, the Kings are 1-9, but they did in fact beat the Raptors in Toronto in that one win, which
oh,
was
okay. When was it? Do you know?
January 29th, 2021.
Oh, so it was
Those,
almost 2 years ago.
yeah,
Last year, technically.
yeah, but they lost both meetings this past year. So this
Yeah.
past season. And
Yeah.
then
So,
I was going to
mhm.
say about Philadelphia, though. One thing about Philadelphia is they're ranked really high defensively and ranked like middle of the pack offensively. But over their last five, since Embiid's come back, they've been top 10 offensively, and their defense has been down significantly. But
Interesting.
yeah, so I think the King. I don't know. I said this about the Bucks, but for different reasons. The Kings could have a chance to really win in Philadelphia, but I don't know.
Between those two games, not only is you're playing Toronto on a back to back, but like I said, I just feel like you have a better chance beating the Sixers. It's just I don't know. I like
Yeah,
those reasons you said for sure. And just if you can lock down Harden, I think Mitchell locked down Harden last year in Brooklyn when he was still on the Nets. I think he shot like 0 for 8 against them or something. I think like 2 days later, he's like, I want to be traded. And it wasn't, I mean, who knows? Maybe it was the reason. But I just remember that happened and he requested a trade. So he had a poor shooting night and the Kings beat the Nets that night on top of that. So if you can lock down Harden, stop him. I mean, I think the Kings have a decent chance. And not to cut too far into our topics, but I do believe Fox was practicing today or yesterday. He was practicing
yeah,
on Monday, so he might come back too, which will help. But again, we'll get to Fox later on.
definitely relevant though, and also relevant. Alex Len didn't practice on Monday with
What?
illness. No, I don't know what we're gonna do without him. But they're bringing up Keita because he's got the 2-way contract, and he's going to be available. I
Okay.
think that'll be interesting because you don't want Sabonis to get into foul trouble. You don't want, and also it's like I was looking at it, and it's like I don't know. You've seen like Metu get neutralized a couple of times, and the whole bench kind of get neutralized, which is another topic that we'll talk about later. And I feel like against Embiid and who's their backup center in Philadelphia, Harrell.
Is
Um,
it Harold?
yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
he's played like over 20 games this year at 11 or 12 minutes a game. I think I looked it up earlier, but
Hmm.
Harold's got like what 25 pounds on Metu.
Who
So
doesn't? Who
yeah,
doesn't have 25 pounds on Metu at the center position?
yeah, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think that means Keita's going to come in and you know uh, get minutes or primary rotational minutes. I think he's just there as an insurance policy, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. Even because Jason Anderson pointed out, it's a good idea. Like, you just want the extra size, and just in case there's foul trouble, which does bring up a good point. You don't want to get into foul trouble trying to defend Embiid, especially Sabonis. But just overall in that game, I guess you were talking about Harden. I think, he's the primary facilitator there. He's like they don't really have a point guard right now because Tyrese Maxey is hurt. And Harden's leading the team in assists anyways. So I think, as you're pointing to, because one of the things that a lot of the defenses have done to the Kings over these last three, particularly in the 2 losses, is that they've limited their ability to facilitate the ball. The Kings are averaging 20 assists on this road trip. So I think in a similar light, I don't know, knowing that, you could being able to shut down that ability, especially when it's just a simple point of attack like James Harden, that might be a primary focus, and that could really pay off. So shutting him down in that category would probably be pretty big. But I mean, I really do feel like they could pull out a win here. I think you might be able to get into the paint against this team. They don't defend the paint super well, and they defend the perimeter well, and also on the other end shoot the ball really well from the 3. So, the Kings give up a pretty high clip from 3, but I know that everybody points to advanced statistics that say that the Kings defend shots and contest shots well, and the guys are just hitting shots. I don't know if that still holds up this far into the season, but, I think that the Kings can, be smarter, set up threes in a way, and don't do what they did against the Knicks where they were jacking up a lot of threes early in the game. Let the threes come to them by attacking inside, and then also defending the perimeter. And I think that it just feels like the Kings match up pretty decently against Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to get to 3-3, they'll have to beat Philadelphia. Watch them beat Philly and Toronto, and then lose to the Pistons to get to that 3-3, or just go 4-2.
Freaking the way I'm talking, they're gonna freaking lose to Philadelphia and then beat Toronto in probably a miraculous game where they're like whipping their ass, and I'm just gonna look like an idiot. And they're gonna go to Detroit and get blown out.
Just kidding. If we lose to Detroit, I mean, that's where it's just like, ooh. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was Luke Walton's first year. And it's like the Kings were just sucking and the Pistons were sucking. And she's like, all right, just like beat Toronto. Or sorry, not Toronto, Detroit. And we just like get blown out by Detroit. And just like, oh my God. I don't know. I feel like Detroit, just at least playing in Detroit. I mean, of course, on the road's always tough, but we've had a couple bad losses to Detroit in the last couple of years. That one I just mentioned. And the Corey Joseph revenge game, and after we traded him in 2021, and he just like scored 30 or something on us. It's like, oh. Do you remember that game?
No, but I don't know why that just sounds like the best movie ever.
The Corey Joseph revenge game. Cade Cunningham's out for the year though, so
hey. Well, I mean, yeah. You never want to see that, but
no.
I guess that works to the Kings' advantage.
Yeah, it does. Another, and Murray's playing better. So maybe it'll be a little bit of a better game this time with the Murray-Ivy matchup, because Murray didn't do much last time against the Pistons. That was kind of like a big deal, right? So maybe we'll get that maybe more fair of a matchup this time, like more balanced stats this time instead of just watching Ivy go off. And Murray's he's shooting the ball well in December, and that's something we'll talk about too. But hopefully, he can continue doing it and just kind of, put those haters to doubt. Still, I mean, I think he did with Summer League and everything, but I think I still see a little bit of some Ivy fans out there like we should have taken Ivy. So it'd be nice to see Murray go off against the Pistons for sure.